To make gains, you need to train hard. But people think that training hard means going all the way to the failure all the time. Is it right? How often you can go to the failure? And is it safe to go to the failure all the time? I will answer to all these questions in this video.
I know alone.
Training to failure refers to performing a single set of an exercise for as many reps as you can until you can no longer physically lift the weight for another rep. You fail. According to the Henneman's size principle, we recruit motor units. When the exercise intensity is low, I recruit little motor units, and as exercise intensity goes up, I recruit more and more motor units, and when I reach failure, I recruited all the motor units. And for a good muscle growth, we need to recruit a lot of motor units. However, for beginners or untrained individuals, high-intensity resistance training to complete failure is not necessary for a maximum recruitment of motor units. Because they are untrained, they will make a great gains anyway in their first year of training, and going to the failure is not necessary. They need to focus on their technique and progressive overload. However, as you get more advanced, your muscle growth will slow down after a long period of training and may eventually plateau. And failure training can be more useful at that point. The study from 2020 shows that both failure and non-failure training protocols were similarly effective at inducing muscle hypertrophy, muscle strength gains, and changes in muscle architecture in trained individuals. That's because going to the failure versus staying rep or two shy has very little difference on the effectiveness of the set. But people oftentimes underestimate their true failure. They think there are 2 reps left in the tank while there are 4 reps left in the tank. So it is useful to go to the failure from time to time to remind you what it feels like and to recruit all the motor units and to trigger a maximum muscle growth. I want you to think about your sets like this. Let's say on a compound movement, failure training is very fatiguing. And I want you to think about your sets this way. Let's say on your compound movements, you are doing 3 sets of dips, let's say. You are doing your first 2 sets by staying in the RPE 8 or 9 zone, meaning you are leaving no more than 1 to 2 reps in the tank, and your last set, you take all the way to the failure. However, on the isolation stuff like leg extensions, lateral raises, they are not that fatiguing on your body because compound movements are using a large muscle groups, and failing at them will fatigue you more. On the isolation stuff, you want to go all the way to the failure, ideally not leaving 1 or maybe 2 reps in the tank. And you need to take the last set all the way to the technical failure, meaning you cannot perform another rep with a good form. I wouldn't recommend taking all your sets to the failure unless you're training 2 or 3 days per week, because it would be really hard to recover after your workout when the next workout is day or 2 after training. And let's face it, training to failure is a really good reminder that you need to push yourself harder and to train really close to it. As you get more advanced, you can more accurately track your RPE, or your rate of perceived exertion. RPE uses a 10-point scale working upwards in 0.5 increments when the RPE 10 is the maximum exertion, and anything below 5.5 is considered a warm-up. Beginners, because they are inexperienced, can't accurately track their RPE. That's why for them that's not even necessary to go to RPE 10 or failure. But for intermediate to advanced level lifters, going to failure is useful for muscle growth.
But what about strength?
The answer is not the same as for hypertrophy. High frequency sets to failure is a poor strategy when it comes to building strength in the short and long term. A number of studies shown that training sub-maximally, even without matching volume, resulted in a greater strength gains than when subjects trained to failure. And it makes sense because when we are training for strength, staying rep or 2 shy of failure will lower the probability of getting an injury and build strength effectively over the long term. So that's why I will use failure training in my hypertrophy stuff. If your tempo has to slow down, that's okay as long as you are practicing a good form for hypertrophy. I will not recommend you to go to absolute failure, the point at which you can not move weight any further regardless of your form breakdown, because when you will break your form, you are getting really very little or even no extra benefit from that set because of the form breakdown. You are not feeling the muscle that you are targeting better, and you are just increasing your probability of getting an injury. So I hope that you will use failure in your training wisely. Hope that you found this video helpful. If so, please leave me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, dedicate your life to your purpose, and bye.